I'm Andrew, and I'm setting out to make better videos for diesel enthusiasts. Follow along as I review products, do how-tos, and share my personal trucks here on Just Diesels.
Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the 2023 Ford Super Duty. This truck behind me is a brand new truck, fresh off the lot, and we're going to be taking a look at this revised update for the Super Duty platform. And more importantly, is it worth it? So I'm going to give you my 2 cents as a hardcore diesel enthusiast, someone that loves these trucks, drives these trucks, but doesn't own one. So let's take a deep dive into this truck to see if it's actually worth the sticker price. All right, so we've got a lot to cover in this video. So to keep it organized, I'm gonna try and segment this. So we're gonna start out with just kind of the overall truck, some of the key updates that were made to the truck. Next, we're gonna go into powertrain, the engine, the trans, all that stuff. This is the high output Powerstroke too, so kind of noteworthy. Next thing we're gonna go into is the interior. What is it like to sit in this truck? What is the interior like? All of that stuff. And then finally, we're gonna go into kind of drivability and my final thoughts on this truck and whether or not it is worth it. So let's dive right into this. So new for 2023, Ford did a complete facelift on this Super Duty. And that means not just a new exterior, but a new interior, some engine updates, all that. Basically, this truck is gonna have new features from end to end. Now, one of the most polarizing features that they put on this truck, actually there's 3 big polarizing features in this truck. The first is the headlights. The headlights in this truck now see the grille actually protrude into the headlight and kind of overlay in it. In my 2 cents, I think this looks really good in the limited trim. I think that's really kind of what Ford designed this truck around, is the limited trim, where it's like a more, I don't know, sleek looking thing. It actually has a projector headlight. Things kind of flow together pretty well. In stock form, I was not super into it, especially in photos. What really changed my mind was seeing the truck in person. Somehow in person, the proportions look right, things flow together, especially leveled like this on 37s. This truck's leveled on a Carli Pintop with 37s. I think things kind of flow together a little better. But the other 2 things that they did that are a little bit polarizing is the bed step and the rear bumper step. Now these are 2 actually pretty useful features, but they did kind of directly copy GM on these almost blatantly. Like they look almost like a cut and paste on this. Aside of that, you're gonna see some small changes to the exterior, changes in the taillights. Another interesting note about the taillights is that for some reason, Ford is only allowing the LED taillights on the super high-end trim. So even a King Ranch is still gonna get incandescent taillights. This truck is also gonna have incandescent taillights. One other interesting change that Ford made to these trucks is the radius arms and the sway bar. CJC Off-Road did an interesting video on this, but you can now fit a 37 12.5 on the stock plus 40 offset wheels with no contact in the truck at all. That's a huge change. So my hunch is that Ford is gonna be doing a factory 37 package on these trucks in the future. I don't see any other reason why they would go to such extent to redesign the radius arms and sway bar. The radius arms have been the same since 2005. So the only thing I can think of is that Ford is kind of eyeing a factory 37 package for these trucks, but time will tell. We'll see if I'm right, but I'm gonna go on record as saying, I think that's why they made these radius arm changes. There's also a couple new engine options for these trucks. You can have the 7.3, you can have the 6.8 if you want gas, and if you want diesel, you can have the standard 6.7 liter diesel, or you can have the high output 6.7 liter diesel. Now this high output engine puts out a whopping 500 horsepower and 1,200 foot-pounds of torque. Now let's dive into the powertrain. I said this truck has 500 horsepower and 1,200 foot-pounds of torque, and that is absolutely insane out of a factory truck, but I can talk about it. I think probably driving it is a better way to exemplify what this truck kind of feels like behind the wheel. I think it's a totally different thing in the real world and being backed by a factory warranty. And I think that's absolutely insane that we've gotten to that point now with consumer grade diesel pickup trucks, that you can go to the lot, pick up this truck that's a high output Powerstroke, and it has 500 horsepower and 1,200 foot-pounds of torque from the factory. It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. But I came to this road because it is a very steep sustained grade. I'm currently going 48 miles an hour and I'm gonna step on it. This is with 37-inch tires on this truck, factory gears. And this truck is just, I'm already at 70, boom. Like, it was that fast. This truck is just uncontrollably fast. This is hands down the fastest diesel pickup truck I've ever been in that's out of the lot. And one thing that makes this truck feel especially fast is the 10-speed transmission. With a diesel, you have a very narrow power band, right? You're only operating between, 1,500 to 2,800 RPM, right? That's your sweet spot. And that's a really narrow power band comparatively to a gas vehicle or something like that. So when you look at Ram that has a 6-speed, this is just gonna walk all over it because it's basically gonna keep the
times. And it really goes a long way in terms of fuel economy, in terms of just putting the power down quickly, and in terms of just general drivability. I mean, this transmission is really a standout piece. And I think it does add a lot of complexity, right? That is a bunch of extra gears where things could go wrong. But the way that Ford has set this up really impresses me.
Another really cool thing that I think Ford does exceptionally well, and I think actually does better than a lot of the other diesel truck manufacturers, is accessibility for general maintenance items. So air filter, fuel filter, oil filter, those are all incredibly and easily accessible. Cummins doesn't get this right. I don't think GM gets this as well. Really, Ford kind of runs circles around everyone else in terms of accessibility of the key maintenance items. The catch, of course, is that for anything else, this engine would be a nightmare to work on. If you look at the top of it, it's basically just spaghetti of tubes and pipes. Look at like a Cummins, it's a lot cleaner, a lot more simple. You can actually see exactly where the EGR runs and all that stuff. So I think if you are going to be servicing this truck for yourself, long-term, 200,000 miles down the road, you're going to be changing out a turbo, you're going to be doing anything on it. That's something to consider. I mean, this is very much a cab-off style engine. Like, it is designed, it's very tightly packed to basically be worked on with a cab off of the truck. So for what it's worth, if I was looking at a truck where I was going to be maintaining it at the 300,000 mile mark, I still think Cummins takes the win. But in terms of the drivability of the truck, if you're just behind the wheel, if you're just doing basic oil changes and things like that, at this current point in time in 2023, Ford has the win. I think that their powertrain, the transmission especially, runs circles around Ram, and the engine just has, as we all know, a class-leading horsepower and torque. It's an amazing power plant. If you are looking to tow heavily with the truck, if you are looking to use this as a work rig, I wouldn't be gun shy of the 10-speed transmission. I think it's proven itself to be pretty dang reliable so far. You know, if not more reliable than the 68s that are in the Cummins trucks. I think this is actually a really solid power plant. And I think that in terms of usability, towing with this truck, daily driving with this truck, this is just going to be kind of the best all-around diesel powertrain that's available for the 2023 model year. Next up, let's talk about the interior of this truck. And this is where this truck really sells itself. This is a class-leading interior as far as I'm concerned. This truck behind me is a Lariat Ultimate Package truck. So this is going to be basically upper end, middle of the road. And it's still the most comfortable interior I've ever been in a diesel truck. It's not just comfortable though, it's really well thought out. Every little piece of this interior is super well thought out.
The way that they have integrated tactile buttons into this interior is also really nice and really well thought out. On the Ram platform, for example, they have the giant Tesla style screen. The catch-22 to that screen though is that a lot of the controls for the truck are in that screen, and I find them to be not super intuitive. So if I want to change the air conditioning, I have to go into a menu, blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to drive. I'm not trying to like dig through menus. And if you get used to the truck, it gets a little bit easier. But I've heard a lot of people say that they feel the same way. What's cool about this Ford is you get a large screen. It's a very large format screen, really high definition, but you also get tactile buttons. All of the key functions for the truck are really easily accessible. All of the air conditioning, volume, all that stuff is a tactile button. And I just find it a little bit easier. The layout is really easy. The buttons are large. I can quickly, at a glance, bring up the air, bring down the air without having to mess with the screen. Other things about this truck that are really nice, the heads-up display is fantastic. I thought that would be kind of annoying. It's not. It's actually kind of a useful tool, and you can also customize what's on that. You can get rid of it entirely. You have full control over it, and that's really nice. The seats are probably one of the most comfortable seats I've ever sat in any truck interior. Ford really stepped up their seat game. And another thing that I really appreciate in this truck is the headroom. I'm 6'4", so in a Ram, I actually am touching the headliner in the truck. In this truck, I've got a good gap above my head, and then over where the sunroof is, I've got a huge gap. So I feel like I have more headroom in this truck. The other thing that I think a lot of people have noted is that these trucks have a telescoping steering column. Ram does not have a telescoping steering column, and if you're tall like me, that's a make or break deal. I've always been a Cummins guy, but I truly think that I am more comfortable in this interior than I am in the Ram, primarily because of that telescoping steering column. It brings the wheel closer to me. My long legs are able to stretch out, but that's a big thing that Ram is lacking. They're just dropping the ball on that for no reason at all.
Everything about this interior just feels high-end luxury. It has really nice materials. Everything's soft to the touch. Everything just looks nice. There's not really any standout cheap plastic parts. There's not any rattly, squeaky things. Everything just feels really high-end. There's a ton of space in the rear of the truck. A lot of people will buy the Rams because of the mega cab and the folding rear seat. Short of having a reclining rear seat, this truck has an insane amount of room in the back seat. So if you're looking to move your family around, you got car seats, things like that, tons of space in the back of this truck. The other cool thing is the under-seat storage bins. They're basically configurable, foldable, so you have a lot of room and wiggle room and kind of what you can put underneath the rear seats. So again, Ford just did a really good job kind of thinking this thing out. There's also in the rear, you have vent controls, heated seats. You've got plugs, USB ports, power. Hands down, this is the most comfortable interior I've ever been in. If you're someone that logs a lot of miles in your truck, this is it. I'm tall too, and I fit in this truck better than really any other platform in the market. So Ford, I think, definitely wins in terms of interior comfort, usability, well thought out features. I think the Ford Super Duty platform really does take the win there. So we're seeing a win in powertrain and a win in interior. So far, this truck is kind of cleaning the board for 23, when you compare all the heavy duty trucks on the market. Now, finally, let's talk about drivability. I will say that this is, short of the GM platform, because it's independent front suspension, one of the best driving trucks on the road, and this is also a fantastic driving experience for a solid axle truck. Part of that is due to Ford's adaptive steering. So this is basically using a traditional steering box, almost crossover style steering where it's pushing off the knuckle, but it has this adaptive steering element where there's some electronic control to it. And it does a really good job of making the truck feel more direct and kind of light steering feel. So especially like when you're doing tight turns or something like that, the truck's got a very good turning radius, but also feels very light at the wheel while still being really controlled on the highway. You're not seesawing back and forth. There's a lot less feedback than the Rams. This is a very well thought out and well developed solid axle steering system. Now, there's a lot of stuff that I probably didn't touch on because I don't want this to be a 30-minute video, but I did my best to kind of touch on the key points of this truck. There's a lot to cover in this truck. Ford did such a good job of hiding little nifty features, little tips and tricks. I'm still finding stuff as I've had this truck for a week now, trying to kind of get familiar with it, get used to it, get acquainted to it. This is a really, really good truck. All around, I think that this is one of the best, if not the best, actually I'll say it, this is the best heavy duty truck on the market right now for 2023. I think that this is better than the GM platform, given that it's solid axle. I think it has a better all-around package, much better interior. And then I think it runs circles around the Ram. Ram has not made a major update since 2019, and they're falling behind. So in terms of like, if you're shopping diesel trucks right now, the Powerstroke Fords are hands down the top truck on the market. Of course, that comes with an interesting thing, which I'm leaving to the end, and that is price tag. These trucks are significantly more expensive than they've ever been and more expensive than some of the competition. So this truck right here, the sticker price on it was $89K as optioned. That's kind of wild when you consider that if you had gone back maybe 5 years, this truck would have cost $68,000 or so as optioned. It's a big jump that we're seeing. And part of this, I think, is due to parts availability and all that stuff. But part of it, unfortunately, is due to the features that we're all asking for, right? I just talked about how much I love the heads-up display in this truck. I talked about how much I love the digital display. I talked about how much I love the giant screen inside of it. All of this stuff costs money, right? The panoramic sunroof, things like that. And so as we add more features to these trucks, as we ask these manufacturers to do more to these trucks, they're gonna get more expensive. So part of this is our fault, actually, because we like these features and we ask for them. Realistically, what I think is happening here is that these trucks are getting comfortable enough and capable enough that you can use them as a daily driver, and so you expect daily driver amenities with the capability of a truck. So I can just as comfortably drive this truck to work every day. You can drop kids off at school, and then you can go tow 18,000 pounds, you can go off-road, you can do literally anything in this truck well. I think that's what makes HD trucks so cool, but I think that's also part of what's making them so expensive, aside of just, parts availability, all that kind of stuff. I do also think that there is some element of Ford knowing that they have the best truck for 2023, and they know they can make people pay for it. So it is what it is. The nice thing about this, of course, is that you can get this same truck as a more stripped down package without having to pay the crazy price tag. But if you are looking at a limited, a platinum, one of those, you are looking over the 100K mark for a pickup truck. We're officially crossing that line of triple digits for a pickup truck. Is that okay? That's up to you guys to decide. Kind of comment down below. I think it's just part of what we're asking for. Like, we're asking for all these amenities, all these technological features, and those come with a price tag. So these aren't simple trucks anymore. They're not an engine and transmission and a bed. This is a lot of stuff going on. We're asking for a lot of features, and with that comes a steeper price tag. Ford really made an effort in 2023 to make some massive updates to this truck while still keeping it familiar. And I think that those changes are what makes this truck better than the competition. This is truly better than the Ram. I think it's truly better than the GM platform. This is, at this point in time, the best heavy duty truck that's ever been made and the best heavy duty truck that's on the market for 2023. So yes, I do think it's worth the price. I do think these trucks are worth it. If you are shopping for a heavy duty diesel truck in 23, this is the truck to get, in my humble opinion. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you think of the look of this truck, if you can get past the headlights, all that stuff. But thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully this video was helpful to someone that was shopping for a truck. I try to be as unbiased as I can. I'm actually a diehard Cummins Ram guy. So for me to say that this truck wins, it's kind of a big deal. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, please hit subscribe. Catch me in the next one. See you guys around.